this time with the president lashing out on Twitter against what he sees as the witch hunt that's against him, saying it's the single greatest witch hunt of a politician in American history. His pushback against the Russia charges continued during a joint news conference at the White House yesterday with the president of Colombia.
As you look back over the past 6 months or year, have you had any recollection where you've wondered if anything you have done has been something that might be worthy of criminal charges in these investigations or impeachment, as some on the left are implying?
I think it's totally ridiculous. Everybody thinks so. And again, we have to get back to working our country properly so that we can take care of the problems that we have. We have plenty of problems. We've done a fantastic job. We have a tremendous group of people, millions and millions of people out there that are looking at what you had just said and said, what are they doing? Director Comey was very unpopular with most people. I actually thought when I made that decision, and I also got a very, very strong recommendation, as you know, from the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. But when I made that decision, I actually thought that it would be a bipartisan decision, because you look at all of the people on the Democratic side, not only the Republican side, that was saying such terrible things about Director Comey. Then he had the very poor performance on Wednesday. That was a poor, poor performance. So poor, in fact, that I believe, and you'd have to ask him, because I don't like to speak for other people, but I believe that's why the Deputy Attorney General went out and wrote his very, very strong letter. And then on top of that, after the Wednesday performance by Director Comey, you had a person come and have to readjust the record, which many people have never seen before, because there were misstatements made. And I thought that was something that was terrible. We need a great director of the FBI. I cherish the FBI. It's special. All over the world, no matter where you go, the FBI is special. The FBI has not had that special reputation with what happened in the campaign, what happened with respect to the Clinton campaign, and even, you could say, directly or indirectly, with respect to the much more successful Trump campaign. We're going to have a director who's going to be outstanding. I'll be announcing that director very soon, and I look forward to doing it. I think the people in the FBI will be very, 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 very thrilled. And just in concluding, we look forward to getting this whole situation behind us so that when we go for the jobs, we go for the strong military, when we go for all of the things that we've been pushing so hard and so successfully, including health care, because Obamacare is collapsing. It's dead. It's gone. There's nothing to compare anything to, because we don't have health care in this country. You just look at what's happening. Aetna just pulled out. Other insurance companies are pulling out. We don't have health care. Obamacare is a fallacy. It's gone. We need health care. We need to cut taxes. We're going to cut taxes. If I get what I want, it'll be the biggest tax cut in the history of our nation. And that's what I want. It's going to bring back companies. It's going to bring back jobs. We lost so many jobs and so many companies to countries that are not so far from you, Mr. President. They're very close to you, actually, and to many other places throughout the world. We're going to change that. We're going to have expansion. We already do. You look at what's happening with Ford and with General Motors in Michigan and Ohio. You look at the tremendous number of jobs that are being announced in so many different fields. That's what I'm proud of, and that's what we want to focus our energy on. The other is something I can only tell you. There was no collusion, and everybody, even my enemies, have said there is no collusion. So we want to get back and keep on the track that we're on, because the track that we're on is record-setting, and that's what we want to do, is we want to break very positive records.
So, Joe, I'll let you decide where you want to begin with that answer. I mean, the thing he said over and over again in there is that he's now back to the Rosenstein defense of why he fired James Comey. He said Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein drafted a memo, and so I fired James Comey, which is not what he told Lester Holt yesterday. But go for it.
Well, yeah, go for it is right. I loved literature in high school and college, but I just could never understand As I Lay Dying because Faulkner's stream of consciousness would just leave my teeth hurting. I finally got him when I read Absalom, Absalom. But until that point, I was as confused with Faulkner as I was yesterday watching Donald Trump actually sounding far less articulate than the president of Colombia, who actually seems to speak our language much better than Donald Trump, even when he's not speaking our language. No, it was bizarre, meandering, wandering group of statements, and he's changing his story on Rod Rosenstein. I know there are a lot of Americans out there. I know there are a lot of reporters out there that are very frustrated by the fact that the truth doesn't matter to Donald Trump, and reality doesn't seem to matter to this White House. That they change their stories every day. One of the good things about Bob Mueller being appointed is facts do matter to him, and he's a just the facts ma'am sort of guy, and he writes it down and he's going to follow it. So Donald Trump can change his story on Rod Rosenstein as much as he wants to. It only impeaches his credibility even more as this investigation goes forward. Bob Woodward, I want to go back though to something that Donald Trump tweeted yesterday morning, saying that this was the greatest witch hunt in American history. We are all reminded by when Richard Nixon had said that what you were doing, what Woodward, what Bernstein, what the Washington Post were all doing against him was a great, quote, witch hunt.
Yes, and he, of course, he didn't like it. But you know that's I mean, the problem here is Trump, and you know, one of the criticisms in the Obama White House, I spent a lot of time reporting on that, was people would say there'd be a meeting and somebody'd say, what's the budgetary implication of this? What are the allies going to think? What's the political implication? And no one ever asked the question, what are we trying to accomplish?
Right.
And that's what this President Trump needs to do, needs to start out the morning and say, what am I trying to accomplish?
There are a lot of,
I suspect, I mean, you know him well. I don't think he wakes up in the morning and says, how can I screw things up and cause damage to this country and the presidency?
How many people
but he's
here
got to figure out.
Yeah, I want to ask.
What is he trying to do?
I'm going to bring you into this because this is a very important point. And I was telling somebody this yesterday afternoon, that if you want to understand Donald Trump, you don't have to read The Art of the Deal. You need to read the first page of The Art of the Deal. Has anybody read The Art of the Deal here? Because, Willie, in The Art of the Deal, on the very first page, Donald Trump says, and this is back in the 70s, 80s, whenever he wrote it.
80s, yeah.
He said, I don't plan ahead. I just show up in the office. I wait for phone calls to come in. I wait for things to happen. I don't plan things out. Things just happen, and when they happen, I react to them. And that really was, for anybody that knew Donald Trump in New York, that's how his business ran. And at times, that worked for him. It certainly worked for him personally. But it's clear that's how he's trying to run his White House. And that's why 4 months in, he's having to hire criminal lawyers. It's just an absolute train wreck. And this man at 70 years old is stuck in his habits. He does not appear to be changing, Willie.
Well, he's an ad-lib guy, and so now what we have is an ad-lib presidency, which is to say if there is a plan at the beginning of the day, if the White House does come up with a strategy, they can't count on their principal to carry it out through the rest of the day or to the next day even, Caddy. I'm thinking again about the Lester Holt interview where they came out and said it was Rosenstein's memo that compelled Donald Trump to fire James Comey, and then in a single answer, in a single interview with Lester Holt, he blows that whole thing up. But this is the way he's been, and it was his strength during the campaign. It was why people liked him. He said what came to his mind. He reacted in real time. He was honest and upfront in the way he spoke. But that's more difficult when you're president of the United States and you have an agenda you're trying to carry out.
Yeah, and it's probably why they came in, and despite all of the people telling them you shouldn't appoint General Flynn to be your national security advisor, we have to go back in time and remember that moment of incredible confidence that the Trump team had after winning an election that no one thought